Hi, I'm Lance Lambert. Thank you very much for tuning into the Vintage Vehicle Show. We are in Puyallup, Washington at Bumpy's Car Show. This is an annual show. It's been going on for years. It's a very popular show. This year there are over 300 cars attending, and it's a very hot day here in Washington. It's in the 90s, so we're kind of melting. But you're going to get very comfortable as you take a look at some great cars, meet some great people, and listen to some great music. So kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. When we rolled into the show today, we saw this 60 Imperial just blew us away. Out of all 300, there's more than 300 cars here. Out of all of them, this is the one that we just made a beeline for. So Joel Holand, you have a spectacular car here. Tell us about it.
Well, thank you very much, Lance. As you indicated, it's a 1960 Imperial. It's a Crown model, which was out of the three models, the only one they made a convertible with. And they only made 618 of those in 1960, so it's a pretty rare car. They only know of 31 that still exist today.
And it's an Imperial. It's not a Chrysler Imperial. Tell us that.
Yeah, that's correct. From 1955 to 1975, Imperial was actually a separate marquee from Chrysler, and then later on it became a model of the Chrysler. But in 1960, it even had its own assembly plant and was its own separate marquee.
Did they have Hemis in these, or what's the engine in this?
Yeah, they did have a 392 Hemi up until 1958 was the last year for that. And then they went to a 413 wedge head, which this car has. They actually saved 150 pounds. The 392 Hemi was a real heavy engine, and the horsepower and the torque actually went up.
There are lots of 59 Cadillacs out there, a lot of 60 Cadillacs. People think of those when they think of class and quality and big fins. I don't remember there being a lot of these out there. 600 and some of the convertible, but more of the hard tops. Right. But even back then they were rare, weren't they?
Yeah, they were an expensive car. They sold for right around $6,000 back in the day, where you could buy a Chevy or a Ford full-size car for $2,500. So that limited how many they built. And they did outsell Lincoln 2 years, but they never really came close to Cadillac. But they're a good car. They had more horsepower and torque than either Lincoln or Chrysler in this year. And they had what they called torsion air suspension. So they corner real flat, yet they have a nice soft ride as well.
And there are certain things that really stand out on this. The swivel seats, for one.
Right. Yeah, it has bucket seats, and both seats swivel to allow passengers easier ingress to the car. The ladies really seem to like that feature. If they're in a dress or something, they can just open the door and swivel right out. And it has a lot of power equipment too. Besides being swivel, those seats are 6-way power seats, which is quite unusual for 1960.
And then something that's, I guess, could be considered literally a jewel on this, the taillights are really outstanding.
Yeah, they went quite with an artistic flair with the taillights in 1960. They were a little different each year. Sometimes they put them behind the fender, sometimes they were kind of up on top of the fender. Gunsight taillights was one nickname for them.
This looks like a car that if Flash Gordon had a really good year, he might go out and buy this.
Yeah, I think the jet age really influenced the styling on these. The fellow that was in charge of styling for the Chrysler Corporation back in this day, his name was Virgil Exner, which most car people know of. He came out with what became known as the forward look in about 1957 and carried through the early 60s.
What kind of reaction do you get when you come to a show?
Well, most people wonder what kind of car it is. You know, it is quite unusual, and like you say, you don't see them at every car show. We did trailer it down to California for an all-Imperial state meet earlier this spring, and we're lucky enough to win Best of Show down there with it. But it was a good chance to see Imperials from the 30s all the way to the 80s down there in California.
Well, Joel, we're lucky enough to run into you today and get an interview, so thank you very much for being a guest on the Vintage Vehicle Show, and you can be really proud of this car.
Well, thanks so much, Lance. I really enjoyed it.
I attend car shows all over the United States, but of course, being from the Pacific Northwest, a lot of shows here. There are certain cars that no matter how many times I've seen them, I go to a show, I have to stop and look at them again. Pete Peterson, your 55 Buick is one of those cars. I love this car. I love the stance of it, the wheels, the color, the sun visor. This just everything is right on this.
Well, that's cool. I like it also. I've had it 20 years. I had a 55 Buick in January 1957. I bought one. And then I had it for 3 or 4 years and customized it. Then I married and had children and buy car. So in early 90s, I got back into it with this car.
And the color is a bit unusual. Is this a stock color that year?
It's close to a stock seafoam green that's been somewhat modified. I would have never painted a car this color, but when I bought it, it was this color, and then I repainted it because I got to like the color so well.
That's what's so striking about it. I think that's the number one thing of the appeal of this car to my eyes anyway, and you can spot it. You know, the other end of the car show, you can see it.
Because we all spend money to polish these things up to be noticed, I guess. So
The running gear on this, what's the power plant?
it's air ride suspension, disc brakes all the way around. I put a 455 in it with TH400 transmission, and it's got a Lincoln Versailles rear end. And it runs really good, really smooth, and it's just a cruiser.
The Kingsmen Car Club that you're a member of, they are an institution here in the Northwest. They have been around since, what, the 50s or how long?
1959.
And they're strong today.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the history of the club.
Well, the history of the club, they started in basically the Parkland area. Jim Olson and Joe Reynolds and a few of those guys. We're at Ording every year. We put a show on there, and then we have an auction every year to raise money, and we spend $13,000-$14,000 last year on food banks and help people that are in trouble. So it's just fun. Bunch of old guys making a couple bucks and giving it away.
Well, Pete, this is a beautiful car. I will continue stopping and looking at it at car shows in the future. So thank you very much for bringing it out, and thank you for being on the Vintage Vehicle Show.
Thank you, Lem.
Kurt Van Verth, this is a beautiful 1953 Chevrolet. It actually fooled me. When I walked by, I thought it was a 54, but it's a 53.
Yes, it's a 1953. I've changed the front end on, so it's got a 1954 front end on it.
So I was almost right.
You were pretty close.
Kurt, this is beautiful. It has a real, looks like something that couldn't have been built in the 60s.
Well, I tried to duplicate one of the cars I had back in high school, and then as I started on it, I just got more carried away and started making a lot more changes on it.
A lot of the people in the audience remember Moonbeam. Did that inspire you at all?
Moonbeam, yes, I've got pictures of Moonbeam. In fact, I was going to chop my top like that, and then I decided to just stay with the 2 inches.
What's the power plant in this?
It started life as a 350. It's a full roller motor. It's got 9.5 to 1 pistons and Edelbrock manifold, roller lifters, roller rockers. It got headers on it, Sanderson headers, and other than that, it's pretty much all chrome.
The interior looks nice and cushy in there. Is that suede, or what do you got going on?
It's actually a material that looks a lot like suede, and we went with that so on hot days like this, it wouldn't be so warm inside the car.
It is a hot day.
It is a hot day, very hot, beautiful day for a car show.
And your Ghost Flames, you decided to do that instead of blazing red and orange across there?
Yes, I decided I wanted Ghost Flames. I actually ended up making them a little less ghostly than I originally started, but the guy who laid them out did such a beautiful job that I decided to darken them.
Tri-5 Chevs, of course 55, 56, 57 Chevrolets have long been an icon in the hobby, but they are really cool, and they've been cool, I think, since the day they hit the showroom floor. What do you think the appeal is?
One of the things I like about the 53s and 54s is they actually are a little bit smaller. I like the fact that not everybody and their brother has one. I've had 55, 56, 57s. I wanted something that was unique and different, and I had one of these in high school, and I really liked it. And they're just a little bit smaller, but the appeal to me is I like the body style on them a lot better.
The show here today at Bumpy's, this is our first time here, and what an impressive collection of cars here. A lot of cars, and it's kind of a surprise. I didn't realize what a big show this is.
Well, it's gotten bigger and bigger every year, and this year I think we went over 300 cars, and they really put a lot of time and effort into the show to try to raise money for cancer, and we draw a large crowd from a lot of the area around here, and it's growing and getting bigger.
And it's the only show we've ever done that has a train running through the middle of it. Our timing was a little off on that for a train coming through, but our timing wasn't off for having you on the show. So, Kurt, thank you very much for your beautiful 1953/1954 Chev.
Thanks, Lance. I appreciate it.
Clem Knudson, this is a beautiful 1928 Ford pickup with Judy written on the side. We'll find out about that.
Better half, yes. My better half.
And striking, red and black, great combination. Looks like a kind of traditional hot rod, so tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's a 28 Model A closed cab pickup. It's not chopped. It's got a 305 Chiv, 350 tranny, 9-inch Ford rear, Pete and Jake's frame and suspension. Most of it's chrome underneath. I bought it, a car that had been started, and then I took it home, and it took me about a year, and I got all of it together and finished and driving it.
When you got this, did you have everything in mind that you wanted to do to it, or did it just sort of evolve?
It evolved. I was at the Portland Roadster Show, and I was walking around. I kept going back to look at this truck, and it was sitting in a display of what this fella did for cars. And pretty soon I saw for sale signs. So it took me about 6 months to convince the guy that my price was right, and went down and picked it up and been driving ever since.
They're not rare, but you don't see them very often. What kind of reaction do you get to it?
Quite a bit, especially the color being flat, both of them. And it's different. It's not chopped. That's very different. Most of them get chopped.
I've sat in a few of these, and I'm too big for the car. How is this?
You don't want to have to go to California. Shelton is as far as I've taken it for a day without having to get out. So,
What was the most difficult thing in the build?
just making everything fit. They didn't fit well when they were new, and then to try to make it fit now, was the toughest part. I always liked them, and I saw one on the Hollywood Hot Rods one time when they had a build on there, and they drove one that was similar to this on a trip, and ever since then I've liked them. So.
You don't want to drive to California, but I know your club does a lot of activities, so have you gone on some good cruises with it?
I have another car that I've been to Montana many times, California, all over that with that one. But this one, if I was 5'1", it'd be perfect. I'd go any place in the world. It drives that good. But
Well, it's a beautiful 1928 Ford pickup. So, Clem, thank you very much for being a guest on the Vintage Vehicle
thank you very
Show.
much, Lance.
And my best to all the King's men.
oh, all my boys. Yep.
What a great time we've had at Bumpy's Car Show in Puyallup, Washington. It hit 95 degrees here today. It's very hot, but so were the cars. So it was really a good turnout, over 300 cars, a lot of great people. We want to thank them, and we want to thank you for watching the show. If you're not watching the show, we don't have a show. So until the next time, we'll see you. Thank you. Bye-bye.